Hello folks, BroBrew.com here, bring you more standard action. It's sadly still the same deck on my side, Jund Aggro. It's still limited by the types of decks my friends play. But at least this time it's a different matchup for Jund. It's the Atarka red. Soon I'll be hoping to actually put up a couple of Tier 1 decks and match them up against each other, but that is what it is for now. I think for a lot of you it will be interesting to see something different in terms of decks, so simply only Tier 1 decks, but for others it might be too boring to see two established decks in the standard for now, because you've probably seen a lot of that already on the SG coverage and for GP coverage. And also I know a few of you are quite fond of this Elves powered deck. Atarka red was on the play here, started off a fetch into mountain into monsters with spear, crashed in for one. I only respawned by a swamp and a trapper. Another fetch for the slide deck while slashing away my trapper. Cracking in for two and just passing the turn, which is a good thing for me to have. That probably signifies that he doesn't have many creatures in his hand, things like that. After all, a big portion of Atarka red deck is comprised of Become a Man's Temur Battle Rage and Titan Strengths and cards like this, and also Atarka's Command, which is 2 mana and not 1. My turn to play was just a Rakshasa Death Dealer here, so he fetched up at the end of my turn a Cinderglade. As you can see, I saw a glimpse of Dragon's Sword in his hand and actually a bunch of supporting spells, but not the primary spells, let's say. Dragon for the resolved. He is able to crash in for 2 because his with spear is now to 3, and it makes no sense for me to block with Death Dealer at this point. He has an hardly outburst in hand, as we can see here, which is a fair land from me. And my plan is to try to hold him down a little bit with Drana, Liberator of Malkir. Hopefully that's gonna stem the bleeding for me. So he's thinking of cracking that fetch. It's weird. So he decided not to cast that outburst here. Huh. That's odd. That is quite odd. Well, any turn that goes on without him doing damage to me is a good sign. That's for sure. Playing a trapper and playing Dwynen's Ally, which brings up a friend, and because I have 4 blockers for his 3 attackers, I feel like I can attack at least with a Drana to pump that up and start to actually deal at least some damage. I was fortunate enough not to have tapped lands or fetchies or pain lands like Llanowar Waste, so at least I wasn't taking any damage from my own lands here. as far as I remember from this match for this game 1, I was kind of flooded a little bit, so the fact that he didn't deal me so much damage sort of helps me quite a bit, because I really wanted to draw more action, and I just kept a generic hand without anything crazy going on. 4th land. I really wonder why he didn't play that outburst last turn. I really wonder why he didn't want to play it last turn. Well, he has an Atarka's command in hand, that we know of. He has now 6 attackers, I have 4 blockers. Things could get nasty here. He took the damage from Drana. He falls down to 12, I'm at 15. But now I have more blockers. Elvish Visionary. You see me actually kind of slow playing here a little bit, or just like step by step, because it was a long day and I was just snacking a little bit here, so, and I didn't want to pause anything and still do it neatly. Why am I telling you all this? I don't know. I just felt like I wanted to explain these weird hand gestures. So I have 6 blockers to his 6 attackers. If he would have had a Battle Rage plus Teamer Rage, Teamer Battle Rage plus Become Immense, it could have been that here. Even throughout all the blockers. Fetching going to 14. I think my plan was to get a second green here for 4. I know, I just needed a red, right. I think I just drew Touch of the Void, that's the 3 mana, deal 3, and if it's a creature it gets exiled, if it gets killed, I mean. So I got the Cinder Glade here. And now I'm hoping to kill his Swift Spear and actually be able to get in for a bit of damage by attacking maybe with something else than just Drana. Start to put counters on my guys, because eventually he may draw into the combo, so I have to try to kind of raise here a little bit before he throws the whole package. So this game's been going on just like I pictured it in my head, sort of. I'm having a bunch of like small creatures, he's having some creatures. Of course he has the advantage in reach, but I have the advantage in normally better board position, and also I have some life gain spells via the Elvish Lord and then the Brutal Horde Chief. So what I lose in speeds and reach, I win in better board position, so that he cannot get through without any vast investments of cards. It's a bit sad that my only removal in main deck would be the 3 copies of Touch of the Void, but with such board state I don't need a whole lot. Also I have the Juru Work Colors main deck, so those guys can actually make it such that he would be forced to jump with pretty much all of his tokens. I attack with the Death Dealer and Drana, pump the Death Dealer so he takes 8 this turn, and then so Drana deals first strike, pumps the Death Dealer, Drana deals, what was it? Yeah, I think we marked like 1 less damage, or I'm miscalculating something, so but technically how it works is that Drana first strikes, puts the counter of my like guy and the Death Dealer, etc. He shows me hands. He has the target's command for a lot of damage and become immense, but no team or battle rage. I'm not sure if that would have been enough through all my blockers. Definitely these kind of hands wouldn't have been enough. But something tells me that one team or battle rage would have worked out in his favor, and he would actually get through there. So it was surprisingly kind of close. But, well, sometimes you just don't draw that battle rage, and I think that was about the only card that actually could have helped him here. So it's only like 4 outs from the whole deck. I quickly go to sideboarding here, even though it's a fast match. But I figured that super long videos is something that I want to avoid if I want, and this matchup is not super deep in terms of decisions. Well, it is still somewhat complex, but not as much as some other matchups could be. So what I'm doing is that I'm taking out some of the high-end stuff like Tajir War Curlers. I'm taking out the Touch of the Void because it's kind of expensive, and Arc Lightning is obviously way better in this matchup, like one of the main reasons why I have Arc Lightning in the sideboard of my Jund deck anyway. And then here for game 2 I didn't bring in Murderous Cuts, but for game 3 I think I brought them in. Existence of game 3 doesn't mean that I lost or won, it just means that we played 3 games. You'll see. I cut some Visionaries because they block kind of badly and wanted like more removal and more interaction, and I already have a bunch of cheap creatures, so some decks might keep like Visionary in, like Absent Rally for example, or some like Aristocrat deck, whatever, just to be able to block early on. Even that deck might actually cut some of those. What else it cuts? Yeah, Horde Chief is good here. The Lord is good here. I just want all of the life gain I want. I brought in the Outpost CGs because Ivory mode is okay, and because the biggest sellouts is that if I put it on cons, then all of my attacks are actually good. I either get in for more damage or I can clean effectively his board, things like that. So it's either extra damage or extra removal, which is a good effect for this matchup. I think that was about it, what happened for me. I think I took out nearly all Visionaries, at least for game 3. And then, as I said, Touchies and War Colors. 5 drop, they're sort of a win more card. he brought in Radiant Flames. Oh, not the Radiant Flames, the Boiling Earth. So 2 mana, like deal 1 to everything, or Overload, which barely ever happens in that deck, though. Well, not Overload, sorry for that. That's Awaken. They're so similar. But he would later on realize that they're actually not that great, because I'm not that of a typical elf stack, so I don't have that many 1 toughness guys. He starts with Mountain and Swift Spear, the classic, attacks in for 1 damage. Moving on. Start with Swamp and Juris. He has the second land, he has Dragon's Water, he has that Boiling Earth. And then 2 Titan Strengths. The double sleeves affect light and reflections here a little bit, but well, it was pretty hard to avoid that. And whenever you are wondering why these reflections happen, it's most of the time because of double sleeves. So taking out 1 Titan Strength is not great. I don't care much about Boiling Earth, so taking out Dragon's Water, his like next turn to play, was good, because that would have saved me some life in the pretty short term. Cracks the fetch. We saw him drawing the Abbot, but while my board is clear, probably wanted to get in with those Titan Strengths. Cast 1, scries, keeps that, as I see Atarka. Oh no, he puts the Atarka command to the bottom. Well, no green source after all. Second Titan Strengths shows him a Fury Impulse, which he keeps on top. Good card in this matchup. He's burned both Titan Strengths here, which is a little bit weird. I'm not sure I would have done that. I don't think he had to cast it there. Fury Impulse kills my Light, which just came in as a 2/2. So he cracked in for 2 damage. I'm already down to 8. That's not really all that amazing, but that's fine. Cracking the fetch, going down to 17. Drana, hoping to stem the bleeding. If he wouldn't have burned the both Titan Strengths, he maybe would have had a better chance here. Abbot of the Carol Keep exiles Atarka's command from the top. He had already a 3rd land in hand. He cracks that up. Life total 7 to 18 in his favor. Gets a Cinder Glade. We know that the last card in his hand is the Boiling Earth, so nothing to be scared about here, especially since it's sorcery speed. 4th land for me. Arc Lightning, Cling in the board, 2/2 Swift Spear, 1/2 Abbot. I'm at 7, but I know the card in his hands, and nothing off the top kills me right there, so it's safe to attack here. And even though he has Boiling Earth, I decided to play one of the Trappers anyway, to make him kinda tapped out a little bit. I had I think just a land and a 2nd Trapper in my hand. He decides not to cast it here. Well, I think if he didn't have any other play, I probably would have cast it there, because in my opinion the Boiling Earth wouldn't get better than this. Because I know about it, so I'm not gonna play the 2nd Trapper into it. But actually now I would, because it would only now kill one creature, since if he doesn't have any removal, Drana's gonna pump the first trapper and get it out of the range of that pesky removal. Fetching going out to 6 because I feel like I'm in a safe spot, and if I just stay there, I'm not gonna win this game. So I'm hoping he doesn't draw into something like double Atarka's command, I guess. I see now a Battle Rage in his hand. So casting the second Trappy here, and over 4 mana to cast the Outpost Siege. I actually think at this point I've put it on dragons, because I'm racing him already pretty well. So I want to draw into more removal or more creatures or more life gain sources. I think he just drew another land. Well, just a land. So Battle Rage and Boiling Earth in his hand, which really wasn't doing a whole lot here. He cast it here because Siege is on Dragon, so it's on the drawing mode. Siege draws the land, not spectacular, but it's better to just draw it like this, unlike the only card you draw this turn. Attack with my team, they grow, and they're basically lethal next turn. We were trying to figure out whether he took the correct amount of damage, because again, the first strike on Drana sometimes confuses you a little bit. So we made sure we had the correct amount of counters on the creature, so that's 3 counters on Drana and 3 counters on the Trapper by now, as far as I can see. No, it's two counters on the Trapper. Anyways, casting the Shaman here, making him to lose 2. So yep, nothing like double Atarka's command, so just another Titan Strength and Battle Rage. So that's how you can win against Atarka. And because these games were not super demonstrative, we decided to play one more game, but with the sideboard, but I would make some corrections. I felt like when his only realistic way to win here with this build, with last burn, is to try to kind of combo me off. So I've put in those murderous cuts in as a way to stop that. Should have done it in the first place, but I wasn't sure how much I would need something like this. Sometimes I felt like I want ultimate price in my sideboard, but the matchups which are problematic, having something like ultimate price is not gonna save me. So Absent is generally okay. It's not an amazing matchup, but it's decent. And one way to get ahead is to have a bunch of removal spells, and ultimate price is not a greatest card against them. I just don't have that much space in my sideboard. And I do have like different kinds of removals, so it should be okay. Between Arc, Lightning, and Cut and Self-Inflicted Wound, it's okay. And I do run now 1 copy of Rending Volley in the sideboard for the Jeska matchup. I think the biggest problem of this Jund deck is the Jeska decks. It's still a winnable matchup, definitely winnable, but it's not easy. It's not easy. Again, the classics. blasting more land Swift Spear on the first turn. I let him start first this game just to so that I have more pressure, bigger challenge. Swamp into Duras, of which I run only 2 in the sideboard because I also play 2 Transgress the Mind. And against something like Jeskai Dag, both of those cards are okay. Although sometimes I did miss. Taking out Atarka's command from him with that Duras. Land number 2, but I think his hand wasn't super spectacular here. Attacks with the Swift Spear. Just for 1. I almost thought that I was fetching. So I tried to look at my library and quickly stopped myself. So he just fetched into the Cinder Glade. I laid down a Llanowar Waste and passed. Third land. Still clunky draw for him. He's shocking me so that he can get in for my damage. I think it's kind of a wasteful way to use that Wild Slash. I think I would still would have kept it because dealing 3 extra damage here is not super relevant. Still has a second Wild Slash in his hand, so that's not too bad. Although double Wild Slash would have cleaned up the Drana, which has gotta be annoying. And he can't roast it because it's flying. Well, he definitely brought them in. Fury Impulse would have done it here, but I don't think he runs that many because he wants to have spells that actually deal damage to face. I think in his 75 there's probably just like 2 Fiery Impulses or something. Because Roast is probably better in general. It's a checklist in his hand, so that means Chandra, and because the other spells in his hand are the Battle Rage and the Atarka's Command, so it makes sense for him to actually cast Drana here. He's attacking. I know that he has gas in his hand and that if I block here, things won't work out nicely for me. Atarka's Command is already, by the way, enough for me to know that I don't want to block, because that makes his guy into a 3-power attacker with 3rd toughness. Well, actually, 4th toughness makes it a 3-4. So take the damage. It says just 1 because he wants to play the Chandra. Goes down. Draw for the turn. I am once again flooded a little bit. I can't kill Chandra, sadly. So that's the sad part. But he has only 3 lands and 2 mana spells that I know of, I believe, at this point. Well, I know about the Battle Rage at least. And to make her flip, he would need 2 spells. But what I missed during my calculations on my turn is that he can just attack with it. And then with Atarka's Command, I can't really eat it with Drana. And I'm at 12. I think I don't know about that Atarka's Command here. I know about the Battle Rage. And I don't know about that second Wild Slash, I believe. cast a double trapper so that I can have some blockers here. Decide to attack with Drana so that because I don't really want to block with her. And then next turn with additional counter she becomes a much better blocker. I think at this point I had just some lands and a brutal Horde Chief in hand. And I really wanted the and I really fought for a long time that turn so to cast Horde Chief instead of the trappers, but I wouldn't want to block with the Horde Chief. So he pinged me with Chandra, then shocked away my guy and then tapped her. And then I thought he would be pinging me, but no, he was going to attack. That's another way you can flip her. So that's a way too. Really thinking here for a while whether I want to block at all or not. And I had to estimate, like, with 2 mana up, like, what's the worst that could happen here? Because he can't combo here, but Chandra will be flipping, and then the other side of Chandra, the -2 could deal 2 damage. And the +1 deals 1 damage to face, so made sense to block here. Made sense to block here. So he decided not to pull the trigger. I'm just taking 2 from the Swift Spear. Chandra doesn't flip. I think he had to flip her, and Chandra checks only about the, you know, just the damage. I don't think it checks whether it dealt damage to the player. So he could have cast a spell and flip her. He dealt already 1 damage. Is it like combat damage? Okay, I'm thinking whether to attack with my guy or not. For a little bit. Here, so I decided to attack with Trana, dealt some damage, gained a life here. And now it was his turn to actually tank. Actually, Drana was supposed to flip here. She dealt the 3 damage, like 1 ping and then 3 combat, so it just says that if she did like 3 or more damage, so she was supposed to flip here already. Because even though my guy is a 1/1, it still received 2 damage, and Chandra did 2 damage here. So it's supposed to be a flip Chandra, which he could have used on his turn as well. That is pretty crazy indeed. So he attacks with both guys here. I'm sort of forced to block with the Horde Chief. This is actually crazy. So he goes with the Titan Strength from Chandra. Well, this is something that can be actually more or less easily missed, so that means he would have one less creature on the board, but he would have an active Chandra for 2 turns to do some nasty stuff with it. Well, this was enough here because of the Battle Rage, which was ferocious. On the other hand, well, we can say like how this will work out. So this is something to actually watch out. But the outcome of this game could have been like quite different. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. See ya next time.